your question gets asked when we have time in a few more minutes after Dr. Lamberti's presentation. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Lamberti.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is awake. And so a little bit about myself. My undergrad is in mathematics with minors in political science and actuary science. My master's is in statistics. And then my PhD is in computational sciences and informatics. So, and right now I'm a postdoc, which is basically a training period between getting my PhD and becoming a full-fledged research professor at a university or maybe at a company or so forth, where I do research regarding genetics. And so this background might seem a little weird or untraditional because it's not, you know, I'm doing most of my training has been in numbers, right? And so it might be a little odd of how I got here, but that's okay. One of the things that before I get into like the science of everything, one of the things I want to impart is just that it's important that so basically my life goal is to try and help people, and I thought initially in high school that was going to be through politics. I thought that the way to help people the best was to become an elected official and get mass change that way. Then I had my high school statistics teacher who really changed my life and really opened my eyes to how powerful statistics was. And that made me really interested in that and pursuing that. And so through undergrad, I transitioned from majoring in political science to statistics. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go get a PhD in statistics because I just really love this thing. And then I went to go get my master's in statistics. I really liked it, but I learned about myself that I wasn't quite as interested in the mathematical theory. I was interested in applying the knowledge that I knew to problems, to more tangible problems. And specifically, I was really interested in images. So trying to analyze and categorize images. And so that's why I decided not to get a PhD in stats, but go to this more computational sciences and informatics PhD program. And so the focus of my thesis was mostly about shapes and how shapes exist. But a lot of the lessons learned there can be applied to problems in genetics and a lot of other fields. So I've done research on classifying satellite imagery. I've done classifying things like medical pills. So if this is a circle pill or a triangle pill or that sort of thing. But I've also done work on classifying cells. So is this a malignant cell? Is this a cancerous cell? Or is this a benign cell? Is this a normal cell, a healthy cell? And so even though my background has been mostly about numbers and math and programming and how to implement complicated models to understand the world around us, a lot of those things that I do can be easily applied into a lot of different areas, such as genetics research. And so one of the main points I wanted to make to you all is that if your life, whatever your life goal is, you don't necessarily have to think about it in doing it in a traditional way. You can think about it just saying, I want to do X, but I'm not interested in getting a degree in bio and then a master's in and then a PhD in bio. I'm interested in genetics, in helping people with genetics disorders or what have you, but I'm interested in art. That's actually a really great combination because a lot, like at least the people that I interact with, they're very much interested in, you know, understanding the biology and understanding the models, but we're not necessarily great artists. And so if you were to have someone who is like, oh, I love drawing, I love the artistic side of things, but I also really love bio. If you had someone who could draw these really engaging and clear descriptions of these biological processes, that's a really powerful combination. And there's a need for that, a need for people that have that unorthodox combination of talents and interests to really get people engaged in to clearly explain the concepts that are trying to be described. And so, again, to kind of summarize this main point I want to make is that whatever your goals are in life, whether you know them or not, follow your interests, and those interests will lead you to somewhere great. So do the unorthodox, because I think the unorthodox is a great way to go. And so to kind of get a little bit into more of how I view genetic disorders and everything, or how a lot of people I work with also view it, is that diseases are all genetic, right? So a cancer cell is a genetic problem because the genes in the cells are saying keep on making more cells at a large rate that's so much that it hurts, right? You're basically creating these giant clusters of cells that shouldn't be there. There should be less cells, right? And so with this perspective, it's more of a all diseases are genetic disorders, and that we have to try and understand how these genes are telling the cells to take certain actions. So if we could go back to the previous slide real quick, what this is showing is basically a very new technique where we try to understand the locations of genes in cells. So what we have here is a cell. It might be hard to see, but this, basically where you can imagine that there's these edges that are kind of, most of the blue and red dots are within this kind of this kind of cylinder in both of the images on the left and right. That's basically a cell, and then you have the center of the cell, the nucleus of the cell, where there are less dots, right? And so these blue and red dots are essentially where certain genes are being activated and not activated. Let me rephrase that. These blue and red dots are two groups of genes that we've identified as, or that this group has identified as being important for understanding this type of cell. And so one of the things that's important, though, when you analyze these groups, is that you can see that this cylinder is not always going from top to bottom, right? Sometimes it's going from the left point to the bottom point, or to the right bottom point, right? So you can get these images at all different orientations, right? You could have this cylinder go from the left side of the image to the right side, or from the bottom left corner to the top right corner, right? And so you have to develop analyses that are basically going to work at no matter what orientation the cell is positioned. So you need it to work no matter how your image is oriented. So if we go to the next slide, one of the things that I really thought about is how can we develop measures? So you can think of like area, circumference, those are measures of shapes, of properties of shapes, right? Of objects regarding their shape. And so one of the things I thought about a lot was how can we develop these really good metrics that can capture information that's useful no matter at what shape or what orientation a given object exists. So if we start with the image on the right here, right? So this is a regular pentagon, and if we put that regular pentagon in the minimum encompassing circle, so the circle that fits that object perfectly, no more, no less, and then put that object that resulting circle in the minimum encompassing square, so the square that perfectly encompasses that circle, no matter how this regular pentagon is positioned, it's always going to result in the same circle and then the same square. But if you were to do that with a square, like this square, let's say this square on the left was rotated by 45 degrees, the minimum, if you just found the minimum encompassing square, that would be the white square itself, because the square is the square itself is the minimum encompassing square. But by first putting it in the minimum encompassing circle and then putting it in the minimum encompassing square, we can ensure that we're getting the same image no matter what orientation the square is at. And so we can apply a lot, we basically can apply this simple idea of understanding how regular polygons, regular squares, pentagons, hexagons, so forth exist. And then we can apply that to genomic data, where we try to understand how these clusters or these groups of genes are activated or not activated in particular types of cells, because maybe the way that those dots are positioned throughout the cell changes in different groups. But you want to ensure that no matter what orientation that you find those groups, you want them to have, you want to extract information that is important for understanding those groups. And so that is kind of a brief overview of my background and the kind of work that I think, the kind of problems that I think about. Mine is much more of a mathematical modeling aspect to make sure that we are extracting important information so that people that have really good biological expertise can then go and interpret these results really, really well, and make sure that they're accurate and can work in all types of different situations. So those are the kind of, those are the main points that I wanted to just bring up. And so I'd be happy at this point, I don't know if this is the appropriate point, Brian, but I'd be happy to take questions. I'm sure Renee is happy to take questions as well at this point, about anything that any of the participants might have regarding the more hands-on stuff, or the more research stuff, or whatever questions related to genetic diseases that you might have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Lamberti. I would love to turn it over to you guys now. We have, just enough time for some Q&A and a chance to engage with these experts. You've been given a lot there, right? So we have, the clinical side of things from Ms. Cecil's, discussion about sickle cell. And those of you, especially if you're interested in not just the tech side of things that Dr. Lamberti talked about, but, his great point about the need for interdisciplinary work, right? The idea that we have to bring artists into this discussion. It's not all a biology kind of topic. This is about people helping people and making it matter, and all of us kind of taking a role in understanding these big ideas. So please, those of you at home and in the classroom here, feel free to jump in with a question. I know we have a lot of different diseases that you're researching, and we really want you guys to hopefully take something away from this presentation that you can apply to your own independent work. But also in March, you guys will be creating those podcast discussions where you want to show that you're informed about the disease, but also can ask and discuss these bigger questions that we might not have easy answers to, but that we need to pursue. So I guess what I'm saying is, why does it all matter? What are you guys noticing here that we can go deeper on or start asking better questions about? They're fighting to get in there. let me ask you this way, like, why does it matter? Why is this work important, both on the clinical